This week's Torah portion is Lecha, and it begins in Genesis 12, verse 1. Then Adonai said to Abram, "Get going out from your land, and from your relatives, and from your father's house, to the land that I will show you. My heart's desire is to make you into a great nation, to bless you, to make your name great, so that you may be a blessing. My desire is to bless those who bless you, but whoever curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed." So Abram went, just as Adonai had spoken to him. Also Lot went with him. Now Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his nephew, and their possessions that they had acquired, and the people that they acquired in Haran, and they left to go to the land of Canaan, and they entered the land of Canaan. Abram passed through the land as far as the place of Shechem, as far as Moreh's big tree. The Canaanites were in the land then. Then Adonai appeared to Abram and said, "I will give this land to your seed." So there he built an altar to Adonai, who had appeared to him. From there he moved to the mountain to the east of Bethel, and erected his tent with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. There he built an altar to Adonai and called on the name of Adonai. So Abram kept on journeying southward. Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to live as an outsider there, because the famine was severe in the land. Just as he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai his wife, "Look, please, I know that you are an attractive woman, so when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife,' and they'll kill me, but you they'll let live. Please say that you are my sister, so that I'll be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians did see that the woman was very beautiful. Indeed, Pharaoh's officials saw her, and they raved about her to Pharaoh. Then the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, but Abram was treated well for her sake, and he got sheep, cattle, male donkeys, male and female slaves, female donkeys, and camels. But Adonai struck Pharaoh and his household with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What's this that you did to me? Why didn't you tell me that she is your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her to be my wife? Now here is your wife, take and go." Then Pharaoh instructed men concerning him, and they expelled him with his wife and everything that belonged to him. So Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and everything that belonged to him, and Lot with him, to the Negev. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, silver and gold. He proceeded by stages from the Negev as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar that he had made there at first, and there Abram called on the name of Adonai. Now Lot, who was going with Abram, also had sheep and cattle and tents, so that the land could not support them living together, because their possessions were many, and they were not able to stay together. So there was a quarrel between the shepherds of Abram's livestock and the shepherds of Lot's livestock. Now the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land then. So Abram said to Lot, "Please let there be no strife between me and you, or between my shepherds and yours, since we are relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Please separate yourself from me. If to the left, then I'll go to the right. If to the right, then I'll go to the left. Lot lifted his eyes and saw that the whole area surrounding the Jordan was well watered in its entirety before Adonai destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like Adonai's garden, like the land of Egypt, till you come to Zoar. So Lot chose for himself the whole area surrounding the Jordan. Lot journeyed to the east, and they separated from each other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the valley. And he moved his tent from place to place near Sodom. But the people of Sodom were evil, very great sinners against Adonai. After Lot separated himself from him, Adonai had said to Abram, Lift up your eyes now and look from the place where you are to the north, south, east, and west. For all the land that you are looking at I will give to you and to your seed forever. I will make your seed like the dust of the earth, so that if one could count the dust of the earth, then your seed could also be counted. Get up, walk about the land through its length and width, for I will give it to you. So Abram moved his tent from place to place, and came and dwelt by Mamre's large trees, which are in Hebron, and there built an altar to Adonai. Now it came about in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Eleazar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, that they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemimber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, this is Zoar. All of these kings joined forces in the valley of the Siddim, this is the Salt Sea. For 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year Chedorlaomer came with the kings who were with him, and they defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shava Kiryataim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is beside the wilderness. Then they came again to En Mishpat, this is Kadesh, and they subdued all the territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites who live in Hazazon Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, this is Zoar, went out and lined themselves up for battle with them in the valley of Siddim, against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Eleazar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, they fell into them, and those who remained fled to the hills. So they took all of Sodom and Gomorrah's possessions and their food and left. They also took Lot, Abram's nephew, and his possessions, and they left, as he was living in Sodom. Then a survivor came and told Abram the Hebrew, who was dwelling by the large trees belonging to Mamre the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Aner. They were Abram's allies. When Abram heard that his kinsman had been taken captive, he rallied his trained men, those born in his household, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Then he divided his servants against them at night, and defeated them and pursued them as far as Hovah, which is north of Damascus. He brought back all the possessions, and also brought back his kinsman, Lot, and his possessions, as well as the women and the other people. Now after he returned from defeating Chedorlaomer, and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley of Sheba. This is the king's valley. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of El Elyon. He blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by El Elyon, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be El Elyon, who gave over your enemies into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people, the possessions take for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I raise my hand in oath to Adonai El Elyon, creator of heaven and earth. Not a thread or even a sandal strap of all that is yours will I take. So you will not say, I have made Abram rich. I claim nothing but what the young men have eaten, and the share of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their share. After these things the word of Adonai came to Abram in the vision, saying, Do not fear, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, My Lord Adonai, what will you give me, since I am living without children, and the heir of my household is Eliezer of Damascus? Then Abram said, Look, you have given me no seed, so a house-born servant is my heir. Then behold, the word of Adonai came to him, saying, This one will not be your heir, but in fact, one who will come from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up now at the sky and count the stars, if you are able to count them. Then he said to him, So shall your seed be. Then he believed in Adonai, and he reckoned it to him as righteousness. Then he said to him, I am Adonai, who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans, in order to give you this land to inherit it. So he said, My Lord Adonai, how will I know that I will inherit it? Then he said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old young cow and a 3-year-old she-goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young bird. So he brought all these to him and cut them in half and put each piece opposite the other, but he did not cut the birds. Then birds of prey came down upon the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. When the sun was about to set and a deep sleep fell on Abram, behold, terror of great darkness was falling upon him. Then he said to Abram, Know for certain that your seed will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and they will be enslaved and oppressed 400 years. But I am going to judge the nation that they will serve. Afterward they will go out with many possessions, but you will come to your fathers in peace. You will be buried at a good old age. Then in the 4th generation they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. When the sun set and it became dark, behold, there was a smoking oven and a fiery torch that passed between these pieces. On that day Adonai cut a covenant with Abram, saying, I give this land to your seed from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates River. The Kenite, the Kenizzites, the Kadamites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not borne him children, but she had an Egyptian slave girl. Her name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, Look now, Adonai has prevented me from having children. Go, please, to my slave girl. Perhaps I'll get a son by her. Abram listened to Sarai's voice. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took her slave girl Hagar the Egyptian, after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram her husband to be his wife. Then he went to Hagar, and she became pregnant. When she saw that she was pregnant, in her eyes her mistress was belittled. So Sarai said to Abram, "The wrong done to me is because of you. I myself placed my slave girl in your embrace. Now that she saw that she became pregnant, so in her eyes I am belittled. May Adonai judge between you and me." Abram said to Sarai, "Look, your slave girl is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes." So Sarai afflicted her, and she fled from her presence. Then the angel of Adonai found her by the spring of water in the wilderness next to the spring on the way to Shur. He said, "Hagar, Sarai's slave girl, where have you come from and where are you going?" She said, "I am fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai." The angel of Adonai said, "Return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hand." Then the angel of Adonai said to her, "I will bountifully multiply your seed, and they will be too many to count." Then the angel of Adonai said to her, "Behold, you are pregnant and about to bear a son, and you shall name him Ishmael, for Adonai has heard your affliction. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and away from all his brothers will he dwell." So she called Adonai, who was speaking to her, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "Would I have gone here indeed looking for him who looks after me?" That is why the well is named the well of the living one who sees me. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. Then Hagar gave birth to a son for Abram, and Abram named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar gave birth to Ishmael for Abram. When Abram was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to Abram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai. Continually walk before me, and you will be blameless. My heart's desire is to make my covenant between me and you, and then I will multiply you exceedingly much." Abram fell on his face, and God spoke with him, saying, "For my part, because my covenant is with you, you will be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer will your name be Abram, but your name will be Abraham, because I make you the father of a multitude of nations. Yes, I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings will come forth from you. Yes, I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, in order to be your God and your seed's God after you. I will give to you and to your seed after you the land where you are an outsider, the whole land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God." God also said to Abraham, "As for you, my covenant you must keep, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant that you must keep between me and you and your seed after you. All your males must be circumcised. You must be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and this will become a sign of the covenant between me and you. Also, your 8-day-olds must be circumcised, every male throughout your generations, including a house-born slave or a slave bought with money from any foreigner who is not of your seed. Your house-born slave and your purchased slave must surely be circumcised. So my covenant will be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. But the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the foreskin of his flesh, that person will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." God also said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai. Rather, Sarah is her name. And I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son from her. I will bless her, and she will give rise to nations. Kings of the peoples will come from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said to his heart, Will a son be born to a 100-year-old man? Or will Sarah, who is 90 years old, give birth? So Abraham said to God, If only Ishmael might live before you. But God said, On the contrary, Sarah your wife will bear you a son, and you must name him Isaac. So I will confirm my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him very much. He will father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this set time next year. When he finished speaking with him, God went up from Abraham. Then Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and all of his house-born slaves, and all of his purchased slaves, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin on this very same day, just as God had spoken with him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and his son Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. On this very same day, Abraham and Ishmael, his son, were circumcised. Also, all the men of his house, house-born slaves, and slaves purchased from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. This week's prophet's reading begins Isaiah 40 and verse 27. Why do you say, O Jacob, and assert, O Israel, my way is hidden from Adonai, and the justice due me escapes the notice of my God? Have you not known? Have you not heard? Adonai is the eternal God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not grow tired or weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives strength to the weary, and to one without vigor he adds might. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But they who wait for Adonai will renew their strength. They will soar up with wings as eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Be silent before me, O islands. Let peoples renew their strength. Let them draw near, then let them speak. Let us come together for judgment. Who has stirred up one from the east? He calls justice to his feet. He gives nations over to him and subdues kings. He makes them like dust with his sword, as driven stubble with his bow. He pursues them, passing on safely by a path his feet had not traveled. Who has performed and done it, calling forth the generations from the beginning? I, Adonai, am the first and the last. I am He. The coastlands have seen and fear. The ends of the earth tremble. They draw near and come. Each one helps his neighbor and says to his brother, Be strong. The craftsman encourages the smith, who smooths with the hammer, who strikes with the anvil, saying of the soldering, It's good, as he fastens it with nails, so that it will not totter. But you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, descendant of Abraham, my friend, I took hold of you from the ends of the earth, and called from its uttermost parts, and said to you, You are my servant. I have chosen you, not rejected you. Fear not, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Behold, all who are angry at you will be ashamed and disgraced. Those who quarrel with you will be as nothing and perish. Though you will look for those who contended with you, you will not find them. Those who warred against you will be as nothing at all. For I am Adonai your God, who upholds your right hand, who says to you, Fear not, I will help you. Fear not, you worm Jacob, you men of Israel. I will help you. It is a declaration of Adonai your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. Look, I will make you a threshing sledge, new with sharp double-edged spikes. You will thresh the mountains and grind them up, and will make the hills like chaff. You will winnow them, and a wind will carry them away, and a storm will scatter them. But you will rejoice in Adonai. You will glory in the Holy One of Israel. And this week's gospel readings start at John 8:51. Amen, amen, I tell you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. Now we know you have a demon. The Judean leaders said to him, Abraham and the prophets died, yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. You are not greater than our father Abraham who died, are you? The prophets also died. Who do you make yourself out to be? Yeshua answered, If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who gives me glory, the one of whom you say, He is our God. Yet you do not know him, but I know him. If I say I do not know him, I will be a liar like you. Yet I do know him and keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day. He saw it and was thrilled. Then the Judeans said to him, You are not even 50 years old, and you've seen Abraham? Yeshua answered them, Amen, amen, I tell you, before Abraham was, I am. And that concludes this week's Torah portion. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.